What's up, guys? Mitch from RespectMyRegion.com here with another episode of the North American Weed Tour podcast, episode 62. Today we have special guest Elliott Lewis, CEO of Catalyst Cannabis Co. in Southern California. How you doing today, Elliot?
Really good. Thanks for having me on. Always appreciate being able to get the message out and say a few things. So I want to appreciate you. Say thanks for just having me on and taking the time.
100%, man. I've been I've talked about you on this podcast. I've actually shared, I think, your LinkedIn profile with guests on this podcast. When certain topics and conversations come up that, people that follow you are familiar that you speak on. So I'm super excited to have you. I know I met you briefly at Hollow Flowers in person and paid my respects, man. Big fan of what you're doing business-wise, but also just continually pressing the line of putting education out there and putting pressure on the system to get better.
No, I appreciate that. I mean, look, obviously we got shareholders, we got to make some money, but my real passion is the advocacy. It wasn't like a plan going in, but then you just kind of see things, and we just started inching our way along, and then I just was like, fuck it, I just got louder and louder. So if you would have said 2.5 years ago I'd be talking this much shit to the political class, I'd have been like, nah. But here we are.
It comes from experience. I love that, man. So when did your history around the plant, around cannabis kind of start?
Well, I went to Berkeley. I graduated high school in '96. So it was like the very first time I could fucking vote. I was like super pumped up, big fucking weed smoker back then. We voted for the Prop 215 and it passed. And, Berkeley and Oakland was like one of the first places that you could actually get a doctor's recommendation. There was like one doctor. He had this really cleverly written thing. It's $150. That's like 96 money too, right? So it's probably $300 today. I got one of those, which made me kind of cool, having the little card. There wasn't a lot of people. You had to know somebody kind of. And then, so they had a Berkeley patients group, the Oakland collective. And then, we did, I think in '98, we started doing these little 3-light grows, right? And I, sold a little weed and shit. And back then, like, there wasn't like all these strains and all, I had to fucking re-educate myself. There was just like cess or brickweed from Mexico, and then like the kind or the chronic. A lot of it came from Canada, other parts of, the Emerald Triangle. We did a little of that. We did a little bit of growing, but nothing like serious. I think 3 lights was our, crowning achievement with, we got 3 pounds. I think we smoked 1, and then, sold 2. They're like $4,000 a piece back then, but I don't really count all that. But it was fun. And then, I kind of went on some travels, fucked around, got into real estate. Then I started dipping back in like 2013. Guys that I went to school with, they just kept fucking going, right? And by now I had family and, had some ups and downs. But, we had some decent success in real estate. And I was like, all right, I was a little reluctant at first. I was like, fuck it, let's do it. It's getting more legal. We started doing 215 grows indoor, like in LA and Compton mostly. And then I got introduced to some more people. So we started doing these big hoop house grows up in like 15, 16. And it wasn't like clearly legal or what. You were kind of watching out, but you had your scripts. And then, so we did pretty good on those. It was fun. It was the olden days, no fucking metric, none of this fucking shit. You got a duffel bag for weed the day you harvested, right? You trimmed it and you fucking paid your trimmers with the thing, right? So then in 2016, I was just kind of involved enough, and we applied for a license in Berkeley. I like did all this work on it just to try to get 5% to try to get in the game. So my antennas were up just enough. And it came to Long Beach in 2016. That's my fucking hometown. I'm like, I'm going to figure out how to get one of these. So, long story short, we ended up getting 6 of them. And then I was like, wow, this is kind of fucking fun. Like my head kind of exploded. And then we were able just to kind of recreate what we did here in Long Beach and win in other cities and keep expanding. And then, from there, we went out on our own because I didn't know how to run a retail store. We had Connected, who I have a great relationship with today. They were running them, and then there was an interim guy, and then we ended up running them. Then Catalyst itself is only about 1.5 years old, so that's kind of like the brief history. Now we have 9 open stores, but the really impressive thing is we have 18. We won't get them all open this year, or 22, right? But we'll get most of them. There's always some weird shit that happens. One of them gets snagged. Your fucking landlord's a dick. But we're on our way to, by the end of next year, 25 licenses. So what I'm really proud of, among a lot of things, but is we'll be the third largest retailer in the state by end of February, March, and we did it for like 5 cents on the dollar. Everybody else, so we didn't buy them. We went out there and fucking won them. We got our knuckles bloody. We're real good strategically, and then our ops side kind of we built around what really was our core competency, which was winning the licenses. Now we're able to put the whole package together, and finally we got a tiny tranche of money. I've actually been working on another little tranche today, but we mod pod this shit, did it all organically. I'm not really popular with the banker class. I'm getting more popular, but originally they looked at me and they're like, fuck this guy, right? So I was like 0 for 20 getting institutional money. So a lot of my real estate guys put 100, 200. We just grinded our way up, and we were building one at a time. Now we got some money. We put the foot on the gas. So, we're going to go from 5 to 10. Basically in August to the end of the year, we built out 5 stores. And we should have, another 5 first part of the next year. So we're in this hyper growth phase. And all these bankers that thought we had a stupid business model are starting to think like, wow, this is actually a good model. And all these fancy fucking pro formas, suits, I won't name off specific ones, Amendment, but, they fucking crashed and burned. And meanwhile, we're just quietly, working our way, through it. So building the business is nice, and I don't say this to be, fake. Like my real passion is the advocacy and, the community outreach and, taking care of our workers and all that stuff. And, you introduced me as the CEO. I've used this line a lot, but I really believe it. Like, I'm just the first motherfucker here. Like, I'm not naturally a CEO. I have certain skill sets, but I'm learning this job too. It doesn't come with no fucking handbook or anything like that. So it's been fun. I couldn't imagine anything else, any other time in the history of the world. What the fuck would you rather be doing right now? Cannabis in California. It has obviously its battles, but this is just the best time to be alive. And like, I don't consider this shit work. This is like what I do for fun. So just a little brief kind of description. Didn't want to bloviate too much. Just give you a little background about kind of how we got here.
Yeah, no, it's quite amazing what you've been able to accomplish. And I think you said Catalyst as a brand has really only been around. You said like a year and a half.
Yeah, if that. I think the connected story is funny because we were kind of wanting to do our own thing, and we were licensing their name, and they're like, bro, everybody's fucking like, the vendors really like us, the customers like us, but we're not that popular with the fellow retailers, because we had a lot of fights winning licenses, and we price super aggressively. That's our weed for the people philosophy. Keep our overhead low. We don't really fucking market, right? So we're pissing people off. And they're like, dude, like every time we go to sell weed in Long Beach, we got to hear about our stores, but really your stores are just licensing our name. And I'm like, yo, Caleb, I love you, dog. Like, that's your baby. I don't want to fuck your shit up. We've been wanting to do our own thing. So we had a real amicable, split on the naming thing. We had always owned the stores, right? But we were using the connected name, and then we were like, fuck it. So we came up with Catalyst because that meant change. And then, when we were redoing them, they grow the best weed in the game, or top, whatever 5 connected. So their hashtag was designer weed. And when they started like rebranding the stores, they're like, oh, dude, we got to take down the hashtags. And I was like, fuck it, let's call that shit weed for the people. That fits us a little better, right? And so that was just kind of a flip comment. It really turned out, I think, to be a good motto of who we are, and what we're trying to do. And it's kind of like its own little movement. And we just reimagined the brand around who we are, right? And just trying to keep it real. And like, I told this story for the first time at the Hall of Flowers. So it's a funny one. When we opened our first store on 2nd Street, they asked me about branding, and I was like, I don't know fucking shit about branding. The only thing I do know is like try to be authentic. So we opened our first store on 2nd Street, and it was a connected. And I love Caleb to death. Like, I didn't take this the wrong way. Really cool guy. He's been super generous, even moving up in some areas they're in. He's fucking opened the door with open arms. But, I'm like, oh shit, I'm gonna get some press now. We're opening a store on 2nd Street. I showed up looking how I look, and he's like, bro, you look fucking half homeless. Like, no more out front for you, right? So, and I'm like, cool, I get it. Whatever. I'm good with that. But then I think it's just kind of funny. We've basically built the brand. I don't know if it was like intentionally or well thought out around that gritty Street Fighter, not fancy, fucking, hard hitting, bloody knuckle, thing. So I think some of the appeal that we have is now some of the things that, maybe other brands would think like, I'm more into the lifestyle or the higher ed thing. So we're just keeping it authentic is, kind of how it happened. But we're picking up a little steam. We make some noise, but I do think people are gravitating towards our messaging. We're not fucking greedy. I never took a salary out of this company. Got low corporate overhead. We don't do anything fancy. They see us out there taking care of our community. I'm out there my fucking self. My wife's out there. I drag my fucking kids out there, and just being really sincere and fighting for issues. And that's kind of been, I don't want to say it was intentional. Like, yeah, everything you kind of know isn't done in a vacuum, but that's been what we've built the brand around, basically, right?
And it's super interesting you say that, because like when I think of the Catalyst brand in terms of like going to your guys' stores, the imagery, the logos, the way it's designed, it's super clean, right? Like it looks great, it's clean, super professional. But I love that because like the attitude, which seems to be transparent, like you said, in the way you present yourself in both speaking, dress, or whatever, which might not fit the corporate mold for some of these, jerk offs at some other spots. But it adds like a clean retail experience, but it adds some authenticity and realness and like culture mixed with the clean thing. So I think there's something for everyone there. And I think, whether it was intentional or not, you're definitely onto something.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I think some of it is just kind of happens like without too much forethought. None of the stuff that we designed, none of these are marketing people. Like this is just people like, we started out as, basically two, me, Damien, and my brother, three. Then we hired two more, Blake and Natasha. They basically, they don't have huge marketing, but they made it. And we're like, okay, that looks cool. So nothing's really been, done up. Obviously, we want to build the stores nice. We don't get too crazy with them, but nice so people come in, they feel safe. And it's important for us for the aesthetic to look nice. We've really started to get a little more artistic with the last few we built and get like local artists and do murals. But we definitely want people to feel like, oh, this is a cool legal place to buy cannabis. But we literally still have no marketing department. It's like a guy I knew from back in the day from Long Beach, snapping photos, and I talk shit. We barely dabble in weed maps. We send out a few text blasts. We don't have a marketing department. So like that way we're super fucking unique. Like, and because we don't spend money on marketing, we just pass that on to the consumer, and word of mouth seems to be a powerful tool so far in the industry. So we might build them a little slower, but we get the loyalty and people coming back, and especially the heavy consumers. You're a heavy consumer. We fucking saving you a couple $100 a month. That's something that they, I think, appreciate. And we got our fucking menus, man. It's amazing. We got everybody you could think of under the sun.
Yeah, and that's something that's definitely a point worth noting, because price clearly moves volume in this industry, no matter what state you're in. The low price, the low cost is what drives. But when companies get caught up in the race to the bottom, it's back in the day we call it fucking the game up. When you go the wrong way, but what you're saying is like cutting down operational costs so you're able to pass those savings on to the consumer is a much different strategy than like intentionally trying to go head to head with companies knowing they can't compete. And I think that's great, because that's the biggest issue in legal cannabis, especially in California, is the cost of a quality eighth in California is fucking outrageous, mainly due to the taxes, right? And I think that's also something that's keeping the black market thriving down there.
Yeah, well, and part of the reason we're suing the state and stuff is like they're never going to enforce their way out of this, and like at some point they're going to lower the taxes. I don't know if it's going to be 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. We don't have the powerhouse lobbyists that oil has, and the prison guards and the SEIU. I could go through them all, right? And the special interests that control it. So they just see our fucking ass as a piggy bank. And every once in a while, my own fucking friends are like, oh yeah, buy from someone. I know all the people still slinging weed out here, and they're like, you're fucking jacking over there. And I'm like, bro, when I was in the fucking, BM, the margins were way better, right? So like, come in and look, and, we bring partners in. We have some social equity partners, and I'm showing them like, no, look where it goes. They're like, fuck, it's a lot of taxes. So I think sometimes people don't realize like, a $60 eighth would be a fucking $35 eighth, right? And, it's the taxes are driving the price, and, our margins are small. And I said this to, any competitor, like, We got a fucking really big secret, and it's just low corporate overhead. So,
Mm.
if you lower your corporate overhead, you can fucking price with us, right? But you don't want to do that because y'all want to fucking floss and, be fancy, or you think you're entitled to whatever. And we built our shit organically. We're all kind of playing the long game. Everybody's got a little equity in it. And, maybe at some point we'll be able to, do a little more on the pay side. But of any company, but our workers at the stores, all collective bargaining agreement, union employees, they're making more than anybody. So not only do we have the highest paid workers, we have the lowest priced product, and we did that by sacrificing, up here. So like, it's not just me, right? Everybody up here. I'm internally grateful that they're fucking. There's like 6-7 people in a 15-person office, and still here at 7:30, at night. So a lot of hard people working extra hours for little pay, knowing that, hey, we're building it right now. Let's not take all the money out of it to the point of fucking up the game. It's been said we fucking up the game a little bit, but I think it's a valuable thing to try to put money back in the pocket of the consumers. I know it bothers some of the other retailers, but it is what it is. And at the end of the day, like I said, if they were able to reduce corporate overhead, they could probably do the same thing.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, right? You look at the salary of any of these companies, startups, cannabis companies, whatever. You look at the executive leadership salaries. It's it's no surprise where the bulk of that funding goes. Especially you look at some of these guys that are raising large money and running the PR on their raises. If you look at where a lot of that money's going, it's staying at the top, and there's not a lot of trickle down economics. But I mean, for you guys to have 9 locations and still keep corporate overhead low, and that's the main driver of low prices, that's not fucking up the game, right? Someone might feel like that, but that's truly not. Because like you said, you're being very transparent. This is how I'm doing it. Do the fucking same, do the same thing.
Yeah, you can do it. Anybody can do it. And I think at this point, though, also the vendors appreciate it. And they see we're passing it on, right? So like, maybe I get a little better hook now on the way in, right? I could get we don't want to lean on them in the wrong way, but there's something to growing the footprint too. You get the purchasing power that is also a helpful part of it. And these fucking guys pay their bills, they're moving volume, and it's a good relationship, and they don't have to have some sales team fucking running all over the place. You drop, boom, boom, boom. You come pick up your money in 2 weeks. It's it's a pretty easy system for them. So we try to keep the love with the vendors. Same thing with the customers. We try to keep some alliances with fellow retailers, even ones we're having competition with. So we're going into new cities. We're figuring out, let's stay away from each other. Let's not talk too much shit about each other. And we got these, differently kind of formed alliances, but, definitely the fellow retailers on some of the issues we've been outspoken on, especially social equity here in Long Beach, in theory, diluting the license pool for everybody and different things have also, caused a little headwinds. But, at the end of the day, if I have the customers and the vendors happy, we're doing good.
Yeah, absolutely. And so on the point of taxes, I know you said you believe that the government will lower the taxes over the next couple years. What do you think is an ideal tax rate for cannabis? I know that's kind of a difficult question, or it might not be for you.
Well, I don't know if it's the next couple. I would say it might be 2 or 10. These motherfuckers are so goddamn dumb. They don't understand what they're doing, and they don't care. And all they really care about is the next office. And they don't even care about their own policies. The frustrating thing about California is they claim to be progressives. I'm calling them the regressives now, right? They can't wait to get all the fucking funding for the prison system, right? Like, they got no problem fucking when that goes up. Oh, up some more. Why? Prison guards, huge fucking lobby, right? They got no problem with oil having low taxes, alcohol having low taxes. It's fucking California. The money's fucking there. They don't need our money. It's like 0.25% of the budget. This raise that's coming in at the beginning of the year is like an infinitesimal amount. It's just so they can reshift the money and keep the power. And what's the biggest fucking thing that's come along, since tech is really cannabis, right? And like when the internet came out, they didn't say like, oh, let's fucking hit that for 40%. Oh, they let it grow, create jobs, and become a good thing. And when you really do the math, they're not really like saving that much fucking money. So like, without getting into the argument of how much more would become legal, there would be 200,000 legal jobs, give or take, right? Easily, right? So That alone with the payroll tax is in the hundreds of millions, right? They're getting like 900 million now. Then you do the law enforcement, the incarceration bullshit. You throw in some other fucking metrics. Obviously, there'd be more sales. So I think the ideal tax rate would be don't fucking tax farmers. They don't do that in any other fucking business. Don't tax distributors, right? I'm a little more sympathetic to the cities to get a little bit of money and have some tax rates because they need the money. The state, I don't fucking think they should tax it at all. Maybe if they're going to do an excise tax, reduce it from 27 to 5, just like every other fucking industry. I don't know where they came up with the idea that cannabis is some old dinosaur fucking thinking, unevolved baby boomers living in some fucking other era where they put some vice tax on it. It's fucking bullshit. And between like alcohol and weed, like what's fucking worse? Like anybody with a brain and like would say, yeah, alcohol kills 100,000 people. Fucking drink it. I don't care, right? But like, go ask a first responder. Go ask a fucking cop. Go ask a women's shelter, whatever. They'd all say, yeah, no, it ain't fucking weed smokers. It's people drinking alcohol causing the problem. That shit's $3.30 a gallon. So there's no logic behind the tax at all. So yeah, they got to make some money. Let them make some fucking money. So I'd say no tax on fucking farmers at all. Let the cities get a little bit because they do need money. Some of them, right? Some of them, they're getting a little greedy and they don't need them as much money. But like, there's some little small cities that are broke right now. I'm okay paying a little bit to the cities. I don't know what's fair, 4 or 5. And then the excise tax, they got at 27. By the way, these motherfuckers say that calculates out to 15%. We paid 18%, right? Because our margins are smaller. So here's the other thing. You pay the 27% on the buy. So the more you charge, the less your tax rate is because they have some weird calculation. You're going to mark it up 80%, which we don't do, right? So I would say 5% excise tax, get rid of all the down, stop taxing fucking farmers. They're all fucking dying. I get 100 DMs, like probably now sitting in my inbox. And like, I'm trying to figure out a way to save all these fucking farmers in Humboldt. I wish there was one. Yeah. I'm talking about doing like, Emerald Triangle Corner, trying 2 and 3 brands in each place, but they're all dying out. And, it's going to be too late probably by the time reforms happen. I'd say to the state, 5% excise, get rid of the fucking rest of the tax and let the industry thrive. You'd bring more people in and then the BM would take care of itself. If the taxes were low, it'd just go away because that's just what would happen. There'd really be no incentive. They've put a 40% tax on it. They've taken away all the penalty, which we're not for War on Drugs 2.0, and we don't want them enforcing really, right? So it's the perfect conditions. Like, why wouldn't you do that, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't blame people for engaging in illicit activity, especially farmers trying to survive. They're just backdooring a few packs, right? Now, there's bad actors. I try to interview everybody I hire, and I've heard all sorts of horror stories about trap shops and women's rights and getting creeped on. And, there's a little human trafficking. I do think that's the minority, but they're basically allowing that to happen. So I think the short answer is I think 5% excise of the state, let the cities take a little bit. I do think it should be like determined across the board. And then there's no reason to tax down the plant. And then, the other issue to talk about would be why, if people are medical, are they being taxed sales tax on stuff that's medical? So I think if you're medical, they should get rid of the sales tax, right? And I don't even know where medical and rec ends. If you're using it for mental health, I don't know. It's pretty fucking hard to fit. Yeah, you're full blown stage 4 cancer. That's medical, right? You smoke some weed at night to relax, like me. I don't know. That's fucking pretty medical. I interview everybody we hire. Like I said, 35-40% have anxiety or depression. They smoke fucking weed to deal with it. That's medical, and they might not have a medical card. Right. So I do think that it's not the only medicine, but it should be an option as a medicine. And if I'm not one of those that say don't take fucking pills, if the pills work for you, take them. But if cannabis, you prefer it and it's got better side effects than the medicine you're taking, do that. So they've got way too greedy with it. I think if they got it down to 5%, it would balance out the books. By the time the illicit market went from 75% to 25%, they'd get most of it back there. They get a bunch of money on payroll tax. They wouldn't be running around enforcing like morons. But what they want to do is they want to take the money so they could give the money to their friends, and then those people keep them in office. So without getting into the argument, and I don't want to fuck with the SEIU, of the SEIU's earmarks on the tax money, Those are good programs. You could argue they're probably pretty good programs. Yes, yeah, you ain't giving that motherfucking money up, right? They're just not going to give the money up. They got it. They're not going to give it up. They don't see this grand picture. So it's there. It's earmarked for the SEIU. It ain't nobody getting into the SEIU's bankroll because they'll fuck you up politically. And this is a one-party state. So that's like these special interests are what's driving the policy. So nobody wants to fuck with it because crossing the SEIU, you might not get reelected. You might not get to the next office, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not like they're not sitting back going like, is this good policy or bad policy? The calculations are all political, right? And it's more than just the SEIU. They're really just redistributing wealth to their special interests, taking it from cannabis because we're fucking fragmented now and small. There'll be a day when the industry probably consolidates. Hopefully it doesn't get too fucking corporate, but maybe that's the inevitability. And then they'll have big lobbyists, and by then it will get fixed. But my point is, let's fix it before all these people that built the fucking marketplace for us. And really, yeah, I did a little growing in fucking 96. I got here in 13. There's fucking OGs that fucking did time. Like, we should be lifting these people up and supporting them. And, they took risk and they got it legal just to fuck them over with this high tax rate, to me is, immoral. And I would put a cap on, right now, I'd give people like a 6-month warning, and then that's it. I'd fucking shut it down. No more cultivation permits. And then if the marketplace got bigger, the farmers could survive, and that would be that. But right now there's 800 retailers and like 700 growers. It needs to be like 5,000 retailers and 700 growers, and then we're fighting over a quarter of the market. So that's that's kind of my take on the tax thing. But it's just painfully like stupid, and like they say they're progressive, and everything that's happening in the illicit trade between like no workers' rights, no fucking breaks, fucking women being creeped on, people being human trafficked, all the blood's on their fucking hands. And they're the regressives, the fake progressives that are pandering. And if I say black market, oh, they're going to get fucking super pissed off. Meanwhile, not one social equity program, and we're fucking funding a private sector one. There would be no social equity in Long Beach. Yes, the advocates got it here. They deserve all the credit, but we politically fucking made that shit happen, right? And they just pass it and walk away. So they're not for any of these things. And then, again, with the getting people out of jail, like to expunge a record, we have expungement clinics. We're proud of them, but I get like fucking 5 people, 10 people at a time. They're taking $900 million. Some motherfuckers should be back there automatically expunging these things. And all the non-violent cannabis offenders, I'd go even further than that. Well, let's just start with cannabis, should be fucking released from jail right away. It's not that fucking hard. But they don't want to release them. Why? Because they need prisoners so they could fucking, the prisons, they make money. The fucking prison guards are a strong union. And so there's really no political will to ever cross over these special interests. So like Democrat, Republican, that's like a stupid fucking argument. They all suck, and they're all driven by special interests. There's always exceptions. I've met some good politicians, but I'd say, solid 80% of them are narcissistic and fucking stupid. And they're the worst kind of stupid. They think they're smart. That's the worst fucking kind of stupid.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And it's very apparent like how easy it is for it to turn political. Like you said earlier, you're not a political dude. This wasn't something you were speaking about years ago, but working through the system, it just becomes so apparent that a lot of the issues around cannabis are rooted in straight politics and political figures that are, whether they're taking action to gain something or taking inaction for the fear of losing something, it's so wrapped up in this political system. And to your point too, of like lowering the taxes, I've been talking about this a lot. I haven't ran the numbers, but it's a common thing. I mean, it just makes common sense in my head. Like 2 + 2 = 4 is if 80% of the weed is sold in the black market, we lower the taxes to where the price of the black market and retail, they don't have to be even Steven, but they get close enough, right? Like where I'm going to go to the black market and I only save $5 or $10, but I got to wait an hour or two. I get no selection. I don't know what I'm getting, as opposed to, I'm going to go to the black market and save $60 or $50. Like, okay, I'll go through the hassle for that type of savings. But when it comes down to something that's a little bit more close, right, it pushes you to the rec market. Because why don't you want safe and easy access on demand?
Yeah, and then just besides that, the rec market, all these employees are getting paid under the table. We think it's about $300 million in payroll tax escaping, right? And then California gets fucking income tax. So none of these people are paying taxes, right? So you're pumping up. And look, there's a lot of good people, and I know them in the illicit market, right? And some people have come in the legal, they quit, they went back to the illegal market. But nobody's paying tax too. So besides just the excise argument, which I think it almost gets there, you throw in like 300 million in payroll tax, and then like, if a guy's he's got 12 traps, he's popping them up and down, and he's making $3 million a year. Well, they get 300 grand. The state gets 10% of that. The feds would get theirs, right? These guys aren't even filing tax returns. So beyond just the excise, that's why they're looking at this shit like this. It's painful. And then you say you're for entry level jobs. What's fucking more entry level? Like, cannabis is fucking great. And a lot of people in our HQ, they started as bud tenders. And if you don't have a college education, you're passionate about cannabis, you learn how a store works, you could fucking be a very, very, very valuable person, in the industry with no college degree, right? So most of the people up here came in entry level, our head of ops, the head of facility openings, our purchaser, they all started off as, bud tenders. So like, you're just quashing that to death. It doesn't make any sense. And like, not to get too macro, but like, yeah, the fucking manufacturing jobs went, right? And there's these huge disparities in wealth. And by the way, I think tech has all the fucking money, not cannabis, right? And I'm not for like busting the tax out of anybody, but when Amazon is paying zero and they're treating their workers like shit, and Bezos is going to space, yeah, it's an accomplishment. I'm not hating. My wife's got Amazon packages in front of the house. Everybody likes the service, but like, these motherfuckers are paying nothing. So it's really easy to get the 900 million from somewhere. It's this much fucking money. And then, now that the oil spill happened in Orange County, they've all found Jesus on conservation. These motherfuckers all take oil money, whether it's directly or for the 50 fucking fancy name super PACs they have. There's 35 more offshore rigs that have been approved. Oil ain't paying any real tax. They pay some tax here and there, but in the city of Long Beach, they pay 63 cents on an $80 barrel. So, I did a video, I got 1/8 of cannabis and fucking 10 barrels of oil behind me. How does that make any sense as far as impacts to the economy? And like, look, we just want fair taxes, right? Like, what's fair? And I don't understand why cannabis has been put over here. We're going to treat you like the fucking bitch of the entire business community, and we're going to treat everybody else differently. Even with these fucking robberies that are happening, like, you get robbed of your cannabis, like, kind of gets blamed on you. The cops don't respond. It's not the fucking big of a deal. They fucking rob Louis Vuitton, and fucking here they come. They're walking in there, right? They're the police are all there. So whatever the issue is, we haven't got to the point. And look, it's not discrimination on the level of, I don't want to compare it to, gay rights or, racial, civil rights, but it is really an equality issue among businesses that we're getting treated. I mean, in every way, just vastly inferior. And we're either fucking legal or we're not. And once we're legal, fuck you. Treat us like everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I love, a lot of the stuff that you've put out in content is really kind of helping educate people and take some of these injustices and playing your part to right them. And one of them I've seen, I recently saw, I'm not sure when it was, something about you guys getting started on a social equity program, I believe. And so I'd love just a little bit of inspiration behind that, or what the inspiration behind that was. Because when I look at how social equity was lined out in California, I'm in Washington, we don't even have it. They're trying to figure it out like 6 years into the game up here apparently now, but it turned out to be very predatory in most cases in California. So I like the fact that you kind of took something in your own hands instead of leaving it to the government to fuck something else up. So what was kind of the inspiration behind that?
Well, it's a super complicated issue, and you got to hit that sweet spot where it's worth it for the money and the resources to come in, and it also helps out the equity applicant. And then I always say too, I think the caps are too low. This is a controversial statement, maybe. When they start capping shit at 50 grand, it's too low. What about the guy that fucking, his father was incarcerated, he fucking came from South LA, he worked his way up, he got the 80 grand a year. That's a fucking accomplishment. Oh, he can't get this social equity license? Your one qualification is you were broke for 20 fucking years and didn't do anything? Like, that's kind of fucking stupid, right? So I also think the way that they select applicants is stupid. You live in California, make it 90, 100 grand. And you should take bio and background into consideration. You technically can't take race, but if you do interviews, you fucking can, right? As an employer, you always have that in your mind, right? Trying to be fair and make sure you have a diverse work staff that's reflective of the employees. And then, how Pusherman started was, he's not really a kid, but in this business, I'm an old man. I'm almost 44, right? I got 2 guys in the accounting department older than me out of 250 people. It's just a young industry. But he was running around. They had 177 people. And what was happening is the industry itself was holding it down in Long Beach. And my thing is, like, if you don't want it, just say you don't want it. You don't think it's fair. You don't think the economics work. It's not realistic to give somebody 51%. You'd rather pass. It's a position, but just be sincere about it, right? So what was happening really here in Long Beach was they were doing bullshit that was never going to work to like try to placate the equity, advocates, but really not give up any market share of the brick and mortar. And to be a little fair to Long Beach, it wasn't really on the radar that big in 2016 when Long Beach originally moved. So getting it diluted is a little tough, especially when you're getting taxed to death, right? But, I had met an applicant that was trying at a $200,000 grant to do no retail brick and mortar was on the table. And like, I try to find him a space in the back of the building. I think the city just like gave him my number as like a way to do it. Then I called the councilman, what if we did this, made it easier? So we ended up like not being able to make it work under the existing program. And then they were like starting to chirp about doing 3 delivery licenses. I was like, 3 fucking delivery licenses. You guys are a fucking joke, right? So we had multiple stores in Long Beach, and I liked the kid Carlos. And I was like, yo, bro, I'll build you out a spot here. Just deliver under our license. We'll put in all the money. We'll train you up, the best we can. We're not like experts at delivery, but we got them gamed up enough, and we'll just do it, right? And at that time too, we hadn't hit any real funding. Everybody's like, what the fuck are you doing? You're building out a delivery for an equity guy. And this is kind of like I don't know if it's a strength or a weakness. Like, I just walk into the meetings and I'm like, hey, we're doing this. And everybody's like, what the fuck, right? So anyway, it worked out. And it was way more expensive than we thought. And then, you got to get the weed map shit going to get the calls and the whole deal. But we put a lot of money and effort into that. And it's barely like getting by, right? I think they're barely like getting their head above water, profitable. So it's super hard, even with the backup and 100% of the funding. Now we had a space for it, so it didn't get, crazy expensive. But I just couldn't watch the city fuck it up anymore. And I was like, I'm just going to do one private sector, catalyst back. They still haven't even passed it. This is going on months and months. Like, we got it up in 90 days. So, then what ended up happening, I was like, well, why the fuck aren't they giving you guys brick and mortar? And they're like, brick and mortar? And ain't nobody saying that. I'm like, I'll say brick and mortar. So I started coming out and saying like, let's add, I said 5, it ended up being 8. I was fine with the 8. Let's add some fucking brick and mortar, because that really is something where you'll get the private sector to come in and invest, a little more tangible, right? So, who held that down again? The industry. And ironically, the way Long Beach splits, there's 4 moderates, 5 progressives, right? So there's only 1 Republican left. We'll call them in the moderates and progressives, right? So regressives, progressives, whatever. Some of them are sincere, some of them aren't. But the leader of the progressives was holding it down because the industry and the special interests were not wanting it. So somebody who should have been for it was holding it down. And then they had it further investigation. I always say, further study. I always say, take the first 2 letters of that. That's what further study means in politics, right? FU. So we're burying it. And then, what our strategy was, of course, we had the equity applicants, set up the meetings and stuff, was let's outflank them with the moderates. We don't have a majority, but once the shit sees the floor, the progressive are going to have to vote for it. They can't hide it, right? So 2 moderates ended up, and they were all for it anyway. Like, it wasn't like they were against it, but what they thought, the progressives and the industry, was we'd be able to hold this down because we got 5 votes. What they didn't really calculate was, if the moderates bring it forward, then the progressives will be forced to vote. And oddly, that night they almost voted it down so they could be the ones who took it forward. If you stood up, I won't get into the whole thing, but ultimately 2 of the moderates brought it forward. One of them is fairly liberal, and then the only Republican co-sponsored it, and then they were checkmated and passed 9-0, right? And this is the same motherfuckers that have like George Floyd on their wall holding up a fist, and it's the hypocrisy that gets to me. So like, it's complicated. There's a lot of issues with it. There's some arguments to be made. Like, we have a social equity one in LA. We're fucking in this shit for $1.4 million. It's kind of like, damn. And I'm only going to get X amount of the, profit. So it's a tough issue. What some of the things I've suggested are like, Why does it have to be one person? Maybe it could be 5, 10% a fucking lot of a license, right? And then you don't give, one person as much, power in it, and just, different things. And, the predatory issue, my suggestion was set up a panel. And then the ultimate say will be with the government, right? But the panel with people who actually know what a predatory agreement looks like, because these motherfuckers don't know. There's a million ways to predatory somebody, whether it be cost of goods, marketing costs, bullshit executive costs, fucking management fees. Like there's 100 fucking ways. Even in the non-equity market, it's been all done. My suggestion was like, why don't you have the industry check, because you're too fucking dumb. Then we'll red flag them, send them to you. You guys can be the arbitrator. There's enough competitive, thing going on there. So, we're really proud of what we did at Pusher, man. And then, we did, I would say we're a large part, ultimately the credit again goes to the advocacy of LBCCC, which was one of the big ones, and other equity groups who brought it here. But, we did they put a little wind at their back and, teach them the political game, because they were thinking anybody who kind of knew, like, oh, well, we'll go to the most progressive people and that will be who gets it through. And no, right? That's not what happened. But, ultimately when it saw the light of day and it was time to vote, they knew they had to fucking vote. But that was not what, it caught them off guard.
Yeah.
So they didn't.
Yeah, I mean,
the progressives didn't know it was going to be on the agenda until it hit the agenda, right? And that was by design. So I'll probably get in trouble. I'll give you a little inside baseball. But just to get I never gave a fuck about local politics. Like, yeah, I'm fairly well informed, follow national shit, maybe barely knew who my city council person is. We were in 26 election cycles last time around, right? We get real aggressive. We fucking send up some, we take people out, and it's not about are you cannabis or not cannabis. Now I can name most of the local city councils, who hasn't gone yet, which seat we need to flip. Some cities that I'm in, I know, just being in it, you had to get deep into the politics. You kind of learn, you have to be authentic, and your friends are your friends and your enemies are your enemies. I like to make it clear, but there is always a little gamesmanship, that kind of happens behind the scenes. And the hope is you are well intentioned and do it for the right reasons. Again, moderates, they brought forward the social equity bill in Long Beach, so there will be 8 brick and mortars in Long Beach, and now motherfuckers hate us over that shit. Because it's diluting the license pool, right? Which is a real thing. And then they fucking changed the map. And if I'm being honest, I was like, oh, God damn. Because I guess that was a problem getting the real estate. And I thought, whoa, you really opened this motherfucker up. Because I had to battle to get, there was only going to be one spot on 2nd Street. Now Naples is open. And I'm like, fuck, that's right down the street. And then I had to do this whole move to get downtown. And I'm like, damn, now there's some more space downtown. So you're always balancing that, you need to get the ROI to the shareholders, because I got plumbers and fucking just regular Joes that are they're original seed investors, even some attorneys and doctors not uber wealthy, and then your own personal you want to make some fucking money, but you try to always hit that balance of being a good corporate citizen. So that dance is funny. I was super proud, we got it done, and then they changed the map, and I'm like, oh fuck. Equity map. So fucking god damn it, we're gonna have one down the street. All right, surrender it. It's gonna be a fine. And my take is, look, if you're on the right side of history and you're doing the right thing, I don't know how or why. This is just something I believe. Sitting on the radio the other day, everything else will fall into place. So I don't ascribe it to anything specific. I just think there's a power greater than me that I don't understand. And not to get too philosophical about it, but if you're doing the right thing, I do think things work out. But that's been an interesting one. It's a super tough topic. It hasn't really worked in a lot of vicinities. I think Long Beach has taken a really good approach. They took a lot of input, and I hope it's this is where I'm born and raised, in my fucking town here, right? So I hope we're really a model, going forward. I won't go through every policy issue, but we had ad nauseum discussions, with staff and stuff, and I think they really, really want to make it a good program, avoiding the obvious, the predatory and all that other stuff. But I always say, everybody talks about barriers of entry being money and, compliance, which, yeah, fuck yeah. There's still barriers of entry for me. I couldn't do the fucking compliance today, right? And I've been in this shit for 5 years. But don't underestimate the industry itself. The political class is probably bigger barriers of entry, because ultimately and look, it happens to all of us a little bit. You get your fucking license, the cap is 32. Do you really want it to go to 40? Right. And, I think if people were killing it, they might be a little more generous. But when, half the stores probably aren't profitable and, most of them are about to fold up shop, it's pretty fucking hard to be thinking about, giving up 8 more to anybody, social equity or anyone. So it's definitely a balance. And I don't claim to be like, I definitely had a moment when that map came out, like, oh, motherfucker, they made a whole new map for this equity thing. God damn it, I opened fucking Pandora's box, but it took me a minute. I got over it and it's like, oh, well, it's going to be what it's going to be. And fucking put your head at night in the pillow and be proud. And I do think, look, this stuff is going to age 50, 100 years from now. And, people are going to be like, I'm going to be long gone. I don't know what's going to happen in the industry, but that's definitely the right side of, it's the right thing. It's the right side of history.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things I think that not a lot of people talk about is the aspect of being in business and also being an advocate or participate in advocacy at the same time. Is you might fight for something that you don't think is right, but then you create competition or you create new lanes for competition. And like you said, like increasing the license count, not only is that, dilute the consumer base of who shops where, but also devalues your license because what was once one of X number is now a higher number. And so that automatically can potentially drive that cost down. But like you said, being on the right side of history is definitely something that's super important, and not enough individuals, clearly we wouldn't be where we're at today, not enough individuals that had the power or the opportunity to be on the right side have made those choices. So big salute to you for that. And something I want to ask about is you clearly have no issue talking about corruption, talking about politics, which a lot of people in the cannabis space, are trained to, I don't know, hold everything secret, not share things publicly. It's just kind of this part of this cannabis industry. And then also in business, like you said, you got to play the political game. And part of that is not getting on people's bad side, but speaking out can potentially get you on people's bad side. So why do you feel the need or the comfortability of just speaking so freely?
Well, there's a joke going on. I do have a few political consultants, lobbyists, I guess is the real name. And the joke is like, anytime they, half the time they don't admit they know me. Then other times, they're like, they'll say, oh yeah, I work for Catalyst, and they'll be like, oh man. And I get told all the time, stop, knock it off. Like, what's all the cussing? I'm like, I don't know, man. So I fucking talk, right? Or, we do real aggressive mailers. There'll be some stuff coming up, that, there was a debate over, and I'm like, yo, I'm just going to say that shit, right? I can't, and sometimes you get these alliances, you got to, bite your words a little bit. But, the interesting thing for me is like, I barely even got onto Instagram. It's maybe going on about 19, 20 months ago. And the guy who's my marketing guy, he had to like beg me just to get him, like, not beg me, but he's like, come on, bro, let's do some fucking marketing. Like, you're doing no marketing. Like, I'm like, I know. We ain't no money. I'm just trying to build this fucking footprint. That's some later shit. So then we started driving around. He's like, dude, you're the marketing. Just start talking shit. And I was like, what? Like on this fucking thing, I could barely even work it, right? So, I just like literally had like 300 people watching. Nobody gave a fuck. And we just started putting it out there. And I didn't really think like, it's weird, even if like, you just kind of keep finding your voice a little more and a little more. And then just watching it and getting a little bit more confident. And, even I watched my old shit that I did, and I'm like, ooh, and then like, you kind of get comfortable with how to talk into the, camera. So it's just funny. Like, and I've had, I did a thing for kids at the college. I love the young guys. They're fucking great. Two of our proponents on new ballot initiatives are 20. They're fucking gung-ho as shit. In fact, one of them hit me last night. He got called by a reporter. He's like, what do I say? It's like, you fucking speak your truth. I don't give fucking talking points to anybody, right? We got the fucking truth. They're lying, right? We got the fucking, truth on our side. But it's been an interesting thing. I wouldn't have thought it was a thing. You got to watch it a little bit, but I don't know. I just can't, and then they tell me I've heard a lot of feedback. Then, we're writing some initiatives. I get this, you're toxic now. So it's out there, right? And, I have to combat that. But I always say like, just give me a face-to-face, a little bit of time. Beat me. And if you still have that opinion, then fine. And then every city that we've opened in fucking loves us. They see we're out there. We're doing what we say. We're sincere in our commitment. This ain't like our lower level people are doing it. This is our fucking executive staff. They see we're there with all heart and that we're sincere. Even cities we sued the fuck out of and we're in big fights with, and they hated us. Now we're their favorite operator, right? So, you know, I'm just like, give me the chance to open. But, you know, as you get to a new city, you kind of gotta, you know, you're auditioning, and it's this interesting thing where, like, you know, we've been developed this reputation for being like, you know, some people say litigious, I say relentlessly pursuing justice, but in being hard bastards and outspoken and fuck this, fuck that, fuck this. And, you know, the political wisdom is, you know, stop doing that, or you're not going to win any more licenses. I just say, you know, I don't know any other way. And if they like us for who we are, good. If they don't, they don't. But, you know, like, let's, and it always gets political at the end. That's just what it is. And there's still a lot of corruption, right? There's brown bagging corruption. I think that's getting smaller. There's straight cronyism corruption that goes on when awarding these, where, like, you know, whether it be the inside real estate developer, you know, the other, I won't get into them all, but there's other local contracts. I don't want the people in those businesses to start saying, but like public service contracts, we'll call them, right? They seem to be really politically strong, and, you know, they have an oath, and they usually figure out a way to get in. And where the cities get in trouble is they take really shitty applicants and they did a bad application and they award them a license. So we're really good at not proving that that was corrupt ass bullshit, but like it didn't fit what your initiative was. So it has been part of our strategy to litigate. Right now, if I'm looking at my board, you know, we're, I think, suing 8 cities in 2 states. So, like, it's been fairly effective. We don't sue if we don't think we have a good position. And, you know, at the end of the day, like, we're just trying to, you know, if it's a fair process, it's a fair process. But, you know, when we apply, I always think we're the best applicant. I think we're going to have some of the highest numbers, pay the best tax volume. We don't fuck around. We got great accounting, fucking great security. You know, we're going to do our community outreach, and, you know, we're going to advocate. And I try not to beat up on the cities too hard, especially when they need money. So I take most of my fight, you know, to the state. But, you know, I've been called many times by political people, and they're like, what the fuck? You just said the mayor of Costa Mesa's got no fucking balls? Or you just said this guy's a dog killer? And I'm like, well, he did kill his fucking dogs. Like, somebody should be talking about it. Who's defending a dog killer? We didn't technically kill him. We neglected him, and he died. Or whatever the issue, right? And then, you know, apparently Sacramento, I hear, is, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but I hear they're watching. So that even makes me feel like, kind of like, oh, cool, right on. Let's talk to them as much as I can. And sometimes too, like, you know, I try to keep it under 59 seconds. You know, every once in a while I'll go 2 or 3 minutes, but their attention span is short. And, you know, you got to hit a little shock and awe to get the eyeballs. And it's just funny to watch the metrics. Like, you do these really nice posts sometimes, like, oh, I met some great people today, all heart. And then, like, ooh. And then when you're like, fuck you, Newsom, you fucking overtaxing motherfucker. You're like, damn, that shit got 250 reshares and, you know, whatever, 5,000 views. So it's just, the crowd does like a little red meat. I don't have to try to get to myself to that level, but I am cognitive of, like, I mean, what can you really say in 59 seconds or 2 minutes? You can kind of make your point. But like a dialogue like this, you can see, like, oh, this guy actually done his homework. He's got facts behind it. Like, you know, we're not just yelling. We're doing shit, right? We're suing the state. We're writing. You'll probably see 10, 12 initiatives written, not with our own pen, but, you know, Damien, the guy who's in the next office, still here fucking working, by the way, where we're trying to get rid of the bottleneck at the retail, right? We have legal remedies. We have free speech. So it's not just talk. We're actively trying to change the process. And I do think people just a little bit are starting to speak out. You know, Floricado's like, fuck you, I'm not paying my taxes. He didn't say it quite like that on this cannabis tax raise. So I'm curious to see how that plays out. It's an interesting position, but I like anybody who's, you know, out there talking. And again, the conventional wisdom is if you just stay quiet and you're nice and you make friends, you'll get more. And maybe, I don't know. But at the end of the day, you know, I think when you take the totality of our story, you know, in some of these jurisdictions, they go, okay, I can live with that, right? If they're really going to do X, Y, and Z. And, you know, look, they finally stopped, but the CDFTA was auditing the fuck out of us. Everybody was auditing us. It's kind of nice. I think we mostly got it over. But, you know, I told the CDFTA to suck my dick, you know, and like my accounting department is like, what the fuck? You know, I said, somebody said, what do you think about all the audits? I'll tell the CDFTA, ought to be some more, suck my dick. So, you know, but oddly enough, there's like another side of it that I would say, and this is not like an intentional thing, but it almost keeps them on their toes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, do they want to keep auditing me? Do they just look like bigger fucking assholes? We keep fucking, for all intents and purposes, passing, right? Or whatever. They find a few nickels, but, our shit is ran super tight, or I wouldn't be talking this much shit. So it's definitely interesting politics. I don't think anybody else does politics like I do. I think it's like a very unique strategy. But the flip side of that is, I'm pretty sure we got the highest winning percentage. We don't have the most open stores. We got the fucking highest winning percentage in a competitive licensing fight in the state. It's not even close, right? We're winning 80+% of the time. I always think we're the best applicant. So far, it hasn't been an issue, but we're creeping into the South Bay with some initiatives, and I don't think they like that as much, right? So I think it depends on the area, but I'm not planning on changing. And like, if nobody's yelling or advocating, then nobody's going to be doing it, or people are doing it, or maybe I'm lucky enough now to have a little bit bigger platform as we get bigger. But that's the only way that it's going to change. It is simple. Just do this to the taxes, and like that'd be like 80% of the fix. And I don't know why they can't see that.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's so effective. It's not necessarily the negativity. I mean, like the loudness, the authentic, brashness, whatever you want to describe it, like I think is effective, right? When you put content on the internet, entertainment value, some sort of entertainment value helps spur the content up more, reach more people. But when you're talking about real things, and like you can authentically see like, this is painfully fucking obvious to me. And when you're talking about that, I think the point drives home so well. And so that's something. I mean, clearly that's how I found yourself, is through the content I was seeing online, and it was just I love that. Someone that's talking real shit and backing it up, right? If you're talking shit and not able to back it up, you're not going to be able to talk shit on a platform for very long, right? So I think it's a testament to what you've been doing. One of the things I did want to touch on too is, with the expansion of having 9 stores and continuing to grow, what are some of the challenges or thought process that goes into building a brand that's like a cohesive brand, but also making sure you cater to each of these different neighborhoods or cities that you're launching in?
It's a good question. I'm curious to see how this shit's gonna go. So, we're about to open in Marina, which is this little town near Monterey. And then right behind that, we're gonna open in Calexico. So like, no easy way to either of those places, right? Calexico's like an hour and a half of San Diego, east of San Diego. So there ain't no fucking easy way there. I think it's gonna be a great location right next to Mexicali. I think the culture, is here. So, and I think people understand that. The brand thing really, like, I'm humbled that, people are appreciating the message that we're putting out there. But really, it's just menu, keeping it really good, and the prices. And then each store, there's a lot of similarities, is unique. Like, I don't know, for whatever reason, Santa Ana, they love concentrates. So they're the only one that smokes more concentrates. Our Belmont Shore has a little bit older crowd, so we carry more like pain stuff, bombs, more higher CBD. They don't like to get too high. Some of our other stores more like middle of the road, flowers. So and oddly, like I said, we don't have a marketing department. Maybe one day we'll put one together, but it's actually fairly far on the back burner. I'm going to be interested to see, since we have like 0 following in Marina, how long that takes to pick up. My big concern is always like, if the end game is to get 50 or 100 or whatever the fuck we can get of these things, I don't want to come to like turn into some, corporate like Lost. Then we're like, we're talking shit about Brad and Chad and Karen. Oh, by the way, I know 2 cool Chads. I feel bad for them. But we're in these big corporate people, and then I just want to do our best not to become that. And so it's the little things. And HR and fucking, they were making fun of me. I like to interview everybody, right? I said it a few times, but that keeps me in touch. El Monte, I did 18 in a day. It's fucking for 6 to 10 p.m. It's a lot of work. And then when we're cleaning the freeway at South LA, I come out there and I do it. So I think of the little things, just to show that, like, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm doing it, right? I'm living it. And then just being, sincere, whatever it is. To me, the littlest things are the biggest things, right? Like, I've probably fixed 100 orders or customer concerns that I got DM'd about, right? Whatever it was. Hey, this didn't go right. And I call down to the store. It's getting harder to do. I might start handing that off, but I think it's important. And I try to get to them all. And, unless they said something completely inappropriate, there's like 5 where I was like, I can't help you, back to staff. But like 98 times, I'll fix it and I'll text out of the store, hey, this guy's coming in, give him $100 worth of product for $1. Then I even do little things like somebody will text me, man, I love your message. I'm fucking an OG in a wheelchair. Your prices have been helping me. I just want to say thanks. And I'm like, text me next time you go into the store. And then I'll text the manager, give this guy $200. You can't give it away for free for some dumb fucking reason. But give this guy $200 worth of product for $1. So just these little things. And I think it means a lot to the people. So, and then you got to like walk the line of like, you can't give it all to everybody. Time management becomes a thing. I got a fucking family. I have 4 kids and a wife. This is all I do. But I do think it's important to spend a lot of time on the little things too, as well as the big things. So the little things are, see, my wife's on, hey baby, I love you. But she gave me the little googly eyes there. But I do think that is an important part of who we are. The overall branding, like, is a strategy. Like, we don't really, have one. So the SOP is, basically non-existent, right? And it's, I think at some point we'll probably do a little more, but the way I see it, to get into some, macro and why we haven't necessarily spent a lot of money on it and why we keep our corporate overhead low. Legalization was like a meteor hitting the earth, right? And boom, it hit the earth. So everybody thought like, oh, T-Rex is a badass. Triceratops is a fucking badass. But they needed a lot of food to survive and they couldn't fucking live. They went extinct. Who lived? The little fucking mouse that was just eating a little bit of cheese. And the mouse evolved to the Australopithecines, to the Homo erectus, to the, into the age of the mammals, to the humans we are today. And like, that's where I think we are. We're in the age of the mammals and we don't know it. So the little mouse that's eating on the cheese, that's surviving, he doesn't look like a big bad dinosaur, but the dinosaurs that need big meals, they're fucking dying out, right? And I'm watching these MSOs come in here, check the scoreboard in 2 years. Yeah, they could buy their way in. They can't fucking get in, right? Because they're not growing the right way. They're not organic. They need too much food to survive, right? So there's going to be an extinction event. We're just little mouse eating on the cheese. So when it comes down to the branding, like, I guess in a way, and I don't say this in an arrogant way, I just kind of did it in my own image, right? We eat for the people, gritty, fucking tough. Like, let's do our outreach. And, everybody, that was our culture. It's not just me, my right hand man, Damien, it's everybody. And then, everything kind of fell in place behind that. But like, we don't have any, like, our branding is almost non-branding, right? And then, we had this discussion once. It's kind of a fun one I like to bring up. We're like, what are our exit bags going to be? And then, like, we're doing like, I don't know, 4,000, 5,000 transactions a day. And these are like $1.50. And I'm like, fuck that shit, right? First is my first reaction, right? Then I'm like, let's reverse it. Like, who gives a fuck about the exit bag, right? The vendors are already, putting it in a nice package. That probably matters. So I was like, let's just put it in a brown bag. And then someone's like, well, what about a stamp? So that's what we do. We got a brown bag and a stamp. And I actually think that's good branding. Not only do we save, whatever, fucking $80,000, $100,000 a month in unnecessary bags, right? We're, the brand is that. Don't worry about the bag. Worry about what's inside the bag. Do you really want to pay an extra buck for a bag you're going to throw away anyway, or $1.20 or whatever the fuck these fancy bags cost? So we just get brown bags, like fucking lunch bags. They cost like a penny each, and fucking hit them with a stamp over and over again. And those are our exit bags. So all those, I guess you would call that branding, but it's also like, yeah, we're just cheap fucks and we want to pass the thing on. So it's kind of been fun because it's a new industry and maybe it's a new form of branding. And like, now we've kind of fallen into this, like, oh, I'm now more aware that I'm branding, if that makes sense, right? But I wasn't necessarily as aware in the beginning, right? And so, there'll be like little jokes about like, the marina thing. One of our partners has a fucking plane, right? We're the majority. He was in trouble. He had a license there and he needed help, so we helped him out. And just on that license, he's our partner. He's got a plane, and I'm like, oh, no fucking pictures on the on the plane. It's not my plane, and it would be convenient if I flew up there. I don't know if we'll end up taking his plane or not, but now I am aware. Like, and look, I don't live fancy in any way. It would be another guy's plane and another guy's gas. But that said, like, it has creeped into my consciousness. Like, you don't catch me on no fucking private plane, right? That would be off brand. Whereas, like, I would have never really put any real thought into that kind of little calculation. So, just being careful. And like, I don't really overthink that stuff. It's kind of sit as a joke, but the brand is really being ourselves, right? And that makes it easy. And to your point of getting the eyeballs, yeah, you want to get your point across, but I am aware. There was some lady that testified in Congress about, like, oh, they're pushing controversial content, and I don't remember, like a whistleblower. I was like, fucking shit. I could tell just by my own like metric what people watch and what they what they don't watch. And funny enough, we've had some really nice produced videos. By well-known artist gets less views than me like talking shit at a city council meeting. So it is kind of interesting that especially how, like, whatever, we've built our reputation. That's more interesting to the people that are watching than like some highly produced cool video. And I assume that the views and the reshares are somehow correlated to whether they like it or they're interested. And if they're hate watching, I like them too. So, but it's a little bit of a tangent. But look, I'm super concerned that we, like, over the years evolve into what we don't want to be, right? So I think by always, we're going to get big, hopefully. I mean, that's the goal, right? So we always just got to remember to play small. And again, the little touches. When our guys got COVID at the stores, what do you guys want? I called them up. You want weed? That makes sense. I delivered the weed, right? So, and I think just, it takes 15 minutes, but it says everything. So always just keeping staff on that and doing little acts of kindness, I think, go a long way. Maybe we'll get a marketing guy in here one day that actually knows how to market. But my concern is I don't want some fucking douchebag in skinny jeans, like, reinventing our image, right? And, like, I've gone into things like, oh, here's the talking points. Like, fuck the talking points, right? So I don't even know where we would start if we were going to brand, because I feel like everything we've done is so unconventional. And, some of it I think was, like, accidental, I would say, right? Like, who that's a marketing expert is going to come in and, like, today I was getting a little pissed off at the tags, like, fuck you, Newsom, fuck you, Sacramento. Like, that's not going to be a, something that comes to mind, right? So, and I'm pretty willful, so I'm not really going to change, the way we're doing it. So it's an interesting question, but I think that will be one of the last departments that we actually, develop. My joke now is I'm the de facto head, and, I got the homie take the pictures. Like, we'll go to places, I'll be like, yo, I brought the whole fucking marketing department. There's me and my guy, right? So.
Well, I mean, the authenticity is a big thing of branding and a big thing of marketing, right? Like, big money tries their best to buy that, to buy authentic platforms. It's the same thing as, like, they talk about in music. A record label has infrastructure and has money, but they don't have coolness, right? They try and sign artists and buy that. And so I think, to your point, most people, because I do marketing and consulting a little bit as well, and most people that say, like, in cannabis, like, I don't want to do marketing, I'm going to do that later on. A lot of people say that, and I'm like, God, this is such a fucking backwards, terrible approach. But they're missing a key component of what you have, and I think of what's been successful is just being authentic, understanding a message, even if it's been something you developed over time, but understanding and owning your message and then communicating that out, whether it's through content, whether it's through words, whether it's through actions, whether it's brick by brick through interactions with people. So, I mean, you're clearly doing marketing and branding at a very high level, even if it's not intentional and super graphics and making hype. Because to your point, exactly, like, when you're saying something on a selfie filmed cell phone video, right, you might actually be saying something that resonates with people and connects with people. Whereas if you just have pretty imagery and really, film on a red camera, $10,000 video, what does that say? What do people get from that other than, wow, that looks really great. Wow, there's some weed products in there. Like, there's not something to connect with, and that's marketing, is like people connect with different points with a brand or with a company.
Well, I think cannabis is unique too. Like this, and look, I like some of the influencers that are out there. So I don't want to put them all down. I do think Burner carries some street cred. I say the biggest influencers of the game, and it's not a tagline, are the bud tenders, right? But that's the most powerful army you could have that's, there. And I always, like when, hey, how do you get the fucking bud tenders, win them over? But you don't see, like, it's really a medicine, right? Whatever, however, recreation, whatever you want to say, it's really a medicine, and it's how it's going to make you feel, and it's what you're going to like. So like when they're doing pharmaceutical commercials, they're not bringing fucking Michael Jordan on there, right? They're not bringing a fucking some famous rapper on there. So like at the end of the day, I also think that it's arrogant a little bit to think you could charge more for a product because you're a rapper that's grown by another grower that you could get for cheaper. That if you just look at the back, right? And look, I love Seth Rogen movies. He's a fucking guy. I love him. I think he's great. The fuck do I want to buy his weed for? Can't grow weed. Mike Tyson, guy was my hero growing up. I love you, Tyson, by the way. Don't fucking knock me out. But like him being a part of the brand doesn't really, move the needle for me. So, and I could go Purple Urkel, fucking Cheech and Chong. There's like 20 of them, right? And I don't think any of them have worked so much yet. Yeah, you might get a few eyeballs, and we do carry a product, and it's not to put the product down, but this isn't fashion. This isn't handbags or automobiles or different things like that. It's just really like what you care about when you're buying it is how's it going to make you feel. So like as an influencer, there is a little bit of coolness to it. I do think that's wearing off. Like limited drops do kind of work, exclusive kind of work. Then you can get it. You'll be the guy that has it. So there is a little bit of that. But I think for the most part, like what people are looking for is like what's going to make me, feel good. And as I've started to smoke more cannabis again, like I only fuck with indicas. I got like 5 strains I like, and like I don't give a fuck what somebody promotes. That fucking high THC content sativa, if I smoke that shit when I go home, I'll be pacing my house fucking yelling at the fucking Governor Newsom. But if I hit some good fucking indicas, a few times over, it will knock me out. So like I think people, and everybody's different. Everybody's got a unique cannabinoid system, and medications or anything we intake affects us differently. So I think that's what people really care about. And we're offering a value to the customer. And I also think what's interesting, and I didn't put too much thought again into this going in, the younger generation, yeah, we like to rag them a little bit for being a little soft, and the millennials and the Gen Zs and all this, but they actually really fucking care about the planet and global warming and conservation and doing the right thing. So I think we've been able to connect a little bit on that issue as well. Like if you're going to spend your dollars and you see these guys doing the right thing, and then over here these guys are posting pictures of them in their Lambo, like why the fuck do you want that? I'd rather we're going to give, I think we'll be in 16 cities in a toy drive, like, and we obviously put it out there. We want people to know we do it for its own sake. There's a political and a branding value to doing it. So I also think that plays into it, and that's our demographic, right? Look, we want to get them all. Generally, the soccer mom's great. She smokes 1 vape a month. I mean, I want her too. God bless her. I think my wife's watching. She's probably one of those, but she actually smokes a lot more than me. But the 34 and under, they smoke a lot of fucking weed. That is our main demo. Look, we hit all demos. I really like getting the elderly people in. I did a post about getting granny high the other day, right? And it was just like meant in a fun way, right? Where like, I've gone to my house and, bang, just bring 2.5 milligram drinks over. Everybody drinks them. You don't really get super high. Everybody's laughing, having a good time. And it breaks down the stereotype. So we want to, service all ages, but just realistically, who's the heavy smokers of weed? 40 and under are really, even 34 and under are the main, consumers. So it's that demographic definitely cares about the future, what's going to happen. I razz them a little bit here and there, on their ultra, sensitivity, but that's it. They care. When you look, I don't want to generalize generations. The fucking baby boomers kind of fuck shit up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously there's, I guess, rational. We're not putting them all in one category, but they took great surpluses and fucking ran us into debt and fucked the planet up and did a bunch of other shit, and don't seem to really want to change anything. And then, I'm a Gen Xer right there in the middle. We were like punk rock, fucking gangster rap, and they thought we were going to be the lost cause. So now, like, we're kind of finding our voice, like, beyond me, just as a generation. And then the younger generation, they're like, fuck yeah, let's do some change. So I do think, like especially, like, you start getting like 60 and older, they hear me and they're just like, well, I'm turning this dude off. Like, this guy's a fucking, like, nothing, right? But, like, when you're talking to younger, more youthful, they're like, fuck yeah, this is what I'm fucking talking about. This is what I want to hear. And, I've been told a lot of times to watch the language. If I'm in a political setting, I'm speaking to Hall, I don't cuss. But, like, that's the way I always talk. I'm from Long Beach. That's how we talk, right? So it's not like I'm not, like, adding them or taking them away. It's just the way that I talk. And I just, as when I first got in business and, doing real estate before this, little by little, then now I just talk how I talk. No matter, maybe if I'm trying to borrow some money, I'll drop a few less fucks. I'll still mix in a couple of them, right? So, it's definitely again, the authenticity thing is if I do that and, stick to, what our core values are, the rest of the shit's going to be good. And I just love the young guys. Like, I've done I had a couple college professors actually, like, reach out, and they're fucking on it. They get the shit. They know it's fucked up. And, like, we're stuck in these paradigms of, like, Democrat, Republican, are you vaxxed or not vaxxed? Like, all this shit is just made up shit. Like, I don't know if it's, like, intentionally some grand conspiracy to get everybody doing this. Meanwhile, like, the fucking special interests of the corporations are really, running things. So, like, let's get away from that. And I think people realize that, I don't know what the solution is. You can't overthrow the entire political system. It would be, fun and nice. But I think cannabis is a symptom, because it's new, of a lot of what's wrong with the political system. And again, I'm just shocked and appalled, just from what I've learned from moving around and meeting these fucking scumbags. Like, they're the worst people are running the fucking government. It's fucking bad. I'm talking full blown. Like, a good chunk of them are just full blown sociopaths, and they don't give a fuck about anything. And they're saying all this shit, but they're not doing anything. And they're really just trying to get votes to get power. They just want the accolades of being in the office. And I've met really good ones. In fact, some of the people that were most anti-cannabis, I have the best relationships with today, just because they said, I'm anti-fucking cannabis. It's legal. Let's work together. I can deal with that, right? It's this hypocrisy shit that, drives me up. Same thing with the oil debate. Like, you say drill, baby, drill. I don't agree with you, but, like, that's an argument. You say Green New Deal, and then you fucking open 35 new oil rigs, and you got the fucking oil money greasing the entire fucking state. Right? Like, shut the fuck up with that shit. Just, that's the frustrating, part. So, like, at least own what you are. And, I think that pointing out the hypocrisy is popular. But I definitely got on a tangent. But I do like the youngsters. They're a little sensitive. But, the counter side of that is, I do think materialism is dying. You still see it in places. I do think, conscious capitalism, you want to call it, might be a new thing. Like, there was like a lurch to socialism. I don't think it works. Really, capitalism, that's how wealth is created and how things get done. You get more free speech. It's just what it is, right? But I do think people are like, what the fuck is this guy making $15 million a year for? And then he won't give his fucking guy making, $12 an hour a raise. Or how's this guy worth $100 billion and he's fucking got ankle monitors on his employees, right? Like, it's all shareholder buyback. But look, at the end of the day too, my shareholders, are fucking, close personal friends, great people. Like, I got to get a return for them. So, it's always a balancing act. And also, sometimes I get caught up in my own battles, I'll admit. Like, hey, just because I want to do this, because this is my issue. Well, there's 250 workers I got to remember, and 60 fucking shareholders, because they're all we're small before we got a little bit more institutional money. So that's a super tough thing to to balance. But I decided to sell weed to fund the fucking revolution. Let's change it, right? Like let's whatever it is, wherever we can change it, whatever we can do. That's really when we do that, I'll fucking feel good. That's what I really like.
No, and I think there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of important points in there, and I think looking at, I don't know, there's some marketing trend that was to your point of the youth care, like where they put their dollars, they care, and that matters to them. And I too would echo that the materialism thing is starting to lose its appeal. Most of the people that are the most caught up in materialism and hype are the people that don't have it, right? And so when products are branded or marketed as something that's expensive, the main demographic that wants it has the lowest buying power, and so it's kind of a business model. And you see a lot of times with the celebrity weed brands where cannabis is a low margin game. You put a celebrity in there that needs to make a chunk. Well, you're going to have to move crazy units, or you're going to have to charge crazy prices. And the price is simply just so that person gets their cut. And it doesn't, like you said, sure, there's a lot of guys I love that might be known for smoking weed, but just because they're known for smoking weed, I don't think that product's going to be anything better than the next product, unless the bud tender is like, yo, this is the real deal. Like fuck the face on it, fuck the price tag. Like this is actually some real deal.
Well, I've had this conversation with brands, and some get it naturally and some not as much. I'm like, yo, bro, you're the fucking OG. You've been growing weed since fucking whenever, and you grow the best weed. Like, just get out there and say that shit. That's more impressive than getting guy X or Y to say it. And I think the consumers, want to know that story. Like, where'd this shit come from? You stand in there, grow. The guy's been around. He's fucking touching the plant. So, and look, we have an opportunity now to endorse, or whatever you want to call it, kind of partner, give them days, a bunch of different brands. And we just, I've always wanted to keep it really selective so we don't cheapen it. And, we try to get, only OGs, no corporate cheese dig, touch the plant, and we're been in the game and kind of hit that, check all the boxes, versus like some bland ass shit that came from wherever that they're just trying to hit the fucking best margin or race to the bottom or whatever. Because there's actually super affordable cannabis that's fucking really, really, really good, that's growing with care, and these guys have been around for a long time. That's who I want to get down with. And like I said it today, it fucking breaks my heart that like and our purchaser's always laughing. He's like, because I'm trying, hey, we get this guy on, can we get this guy? And there's only so many people you can carry, and they they line up and they DM, and it's just sad to see people that are artists that have grown this plant for 3 or 4 generations in Emerald Triangle. I think a lot of them this year will be their last year. I mean, how can you make money at $300 a pound? It's a terrible thing. And then those guys got to even the ones that are surviving, they're fucking backdooring packs. Like that's just, and don't fucking do it, right? So I don't know if we could stop that anyway. Like, does it all consolidate and like capitalism take over anyway? Possibly, probably. But fuck it. As long as we can, like, I know I'm gonna die too, but that doesn't mean I'm not gonna fucking fight all the way to my last breath to try to make the change we can. But I would like to see the brands that make it at least some of the ones that make it through be the original ones, and not just stomped out and corporatized and whatever. Especially with cannabis prohibition was a different thing because there wasn't such a culture behind it, and it was only illegal for a few years, right? So just like, what are they going to do up in Humboldt and other areas of the Emerald Triangle if most of those growers are no longer around? Like, what's going to happen up there? It's going to be that's been the economy going back to the 70s and 80s. So I mean, these are really tough things. So I think the only solution to that one is to cap the growing permits, but maybe the cat's out of the bag, and I don't think the state's gonna do that. So I think if they cap the growing permits today, lower the excise tax to 5%, we're going to continue writing initiatives up and down the state. So eventually the retail bottleneck will get resolved, whether it's us or just slowly. Those 3 things would keep the small farmer in business. And originally, when they wrote Prop 64, it was supposed to be have written for the small farmer, but they let you get unlimited Tier B licenses, and the rest is history. So that's, it's too bad that I do think a lot of them are not going to make it, but it'd be cool if a good handful or a chunk of them make it, and that's it makes us happy to be able to do that and try to find brands that we're aligned with and help them survive and thrive.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I honestly couldn't agree more to that last point. And I don't know, there's so much room. We got a lot of progress to go. Some of it's not going to be, the progress that a lot of us want to see, but there, like you said the word inevitable. There's definitely some inevitabilities that are coming along in this industry that some people aren't going to like. But people like yourself that are continue to push the narrative and provide education and use your platform to spread the good word and to get people thinking and to push change. I think that type of stuff, the advocacy is really, that's how we got to legalization. The community and the advocacy is how we got to this point. And if we keep that element alive, then, at least a portion of this industry will be in good hands, because, Lord knows corporate's going to grab up some of it, and it will not be in the best of hands in a lot of places. But, it's important for a lot of us to keep pushing that line and keeping the culture alive.
Yeah, I mean, look, I say too, like, people have asked, well, isn't it all going to be corporate? I go, well, one fucking thing I know for sure is, whether it all gets corporatized or not, like the meals that we've given out and the toys that we've given out and the outreach that we've done, and backpacks for school, and helping the immigrant children that were displaced, and making social equity, whether they end up cashing out or whatever, and maybe we created some generational wealth. Like, you can never take that away, right? So no matter where it ends, like the stuff we do today, those are permanent acts of kindness that I think live on, and it will be interesting in 20 or 30 years. They'll probably write a couple movies about this or whatever, right? This is like the time. I'm very cognitive of, like, and I've even thought, like, I can't have a guy follow me around all day, and some stuff you can't have out there. And I'm like, dude, we should just put like one camera. We'll catch it for the day. We'll document it, right? And then we won't like put it out there. We'll just keep getting the footage. Maybe one in my car, one in my office, because there's like really interesting conversations that like maybe wouldn't went out there, or they're like arguments with a landlord, or like you're battling somebody in litigation, and then like kind of like stockpiling that footage, and maybe we just fucking don't make it and it's not interesting. But if you are one of the ones that make it, I do think there's going to be stories told about it. Not that it's the same thing, but like Narcos has become super popular now, right? Like those were all empires that were built a little bit different, a little more hectic, and more violence and sexy or whatever. But they're making movies about the 80s now, and that's all historical stuff that is happened. I think this will be similar. So we're in the middle of it now, which is really exciting. And in cannabis, like, you can't fucking predict. You got to be nimble. The ground shifts on a daily fucking basis, right? And I always say, like, the 2018 me would get smushed by the 2021 me, and the 2016 me, I fucking stabbed that dude in the neck, right? So like, I'm always, and it's funny, like, people will think like, oh, and I see them hiring the guys from Urban Outfitters and wherever, and like, if you don't have any industry knowledge, it's good to have both, I think, but there's just certain unique things, and I had to go through it too, right? Like, I have fucking very minimal retail cannabis, I didn't know shit, right? So it's unique, it keeps moving, when you're in it, and that's how you're learning. But the fun thing is I fucking have no clue what's going to happen next year. I have a plan, but I know that's not going to work out how I think, right? And then in 2 or 3 years, there's no fucking way you could predict it. You go 20 years forward in cannabis, no way.
Right.
And I assume it consolidates, right? Shit, there's a big deal today. Urban Leaf, Harborside, and Loud Pack all got together, right? So I think these things is what's gonna happen. And I guess I'm a half full kind of guy. I hate the fucking California system, but our one advantage is nobody from out of state can fucking play here, because they're not used to this fucked up ass shit. super competitive. There's a huge illicit market. It's high tax. It's fucking local control. It's fucking impossible. Well, the good thing for us is we're a small funded company. Like we could kind of run around. We know the game in California and we're organically grown. So I don't see any of the out of state guys being able to come in to California anytime soon without buying their way in. And the footprints aren't big enough yet. And then when they buy, well, they lose their street credit. And then on the flower side, yes, I don't think you'll ever be able to cross state lines because I don't think it's like in Illinois' interest or Michigan's interest or Florida's interest to open it up to California weed because those people are going to want to protect their licenses. But I do think the brands will start setting up shop slowly. And, you know, there's not going to be a lot of people buying anything but California weed. There might be a few exceptions that make it and some local standouts. But I think little by little, California is going to travel east. I'm not saying it's fair. I'm sure people fucking grow great weed in other states, but is just a birthright. I think it's very hard for cannabis that's going to be grown in New York, like some brand that's built in New York, to ever make it in California or any other, you know, state for that matter, even the earlier movers. I don't know if it's fair or not, but, you know, it's going to be interesting to watch that take place. I do think the California brands, they'll set up the grows in Pennsylvania and Michigan, and it's starting to happen in Florida and you know, once the California thing kind of gets settled. So I think that will be an interesting part of it, but I don't think California gets settled, like, you know, at least as far as licensing on the retail end, you know, 5, 8, 10 years. And then even then there's probably a consolidation game that happens. So I think it's a long ways from really here, you know, working itself out. And, you know, I think one of two things happen. You get gobbled or you gobble up. So I'm trying to do everything I can. I don't want to fucking sell this shit. I do not want to be one of the ones that got gobbled up. I don't give a fuck how much money it is, right? That doesn't drive me. Like, this is what I do for fun. I hope my wife's not still listening, but like the idea of sitting on a fucking beach drinking something fruity for the next fucking 20 or 30 years doesn't, like, that's not fun. This shit is fun, right? Don't worry, baby. We're gonna slow down. We'll take more vacations and shit. But like, I always want to be involved in keeping Catalyst going and keeping the name going. And, you know, I'm really cognitive of rushing this footprint now. So when the end game comes or the game kind of changes into a different little thing and the licensing grab is over, because the licensing grab on the retail is probably second, third inning, you know, tops, right? You know, you look at LA, it's fucking 100 cities, fucking 90 left, 80 left. Orange County, 34, 2 more are opening, but only 3 really going. IE, I could go on and on. So, you know, positioning yourself to be able to play in that game is important. And you're going to have to make allies and, you know, people that you like, people that you trust, that trust you, and alliances and consolidations and mergers, you know, are going to happen, but they have to make sense, you know, in order to work for everybody. So like, you know, playing the prediction game in cannabis, like, we're pretty fucking sure what's going to happen over the next 10 years in alcohol. It's not going to change that much. Like, I don't think Budweiser is going to go down the shitter, right? But I do think that, you know, there'll be a lot of cannabis companies that rise and fall. There'll be some that come out of fucking nowhere that we're not even talking about today, right? You know, when I first started, you know, really kind of trying to build this thing, MedMen was the big deal. So they got $1 billion valuation. And I wrote a little thing on my thing. I put beat MedMen. One of my kids finally ripped it down, but I had it taped up on my little desk. And I was like, I'm going to chase them down. I didn't think it'd happen how it happened. I thought I'd like catch them like 10 years later. I didn't think they'd, you know, half implode. But, you know, that's why you can't, you know, predict what's going to happen. And there could be somebody that's lying quiet today that's not even in the conversation that rises, you know, out of nowhere. But I do think the True Leaves, the Cure Leaves, the Crescos, some of the Canadian companies, they're going to be shopping for footprints in California. And, you know, my objective is not to, you know, ever sell, right? You know, I want to get a stock so it's liquidatable, so the early fucking investors could get out and, you know, fuck every 10. I know, like, I'm almost 44 now. I was 34, 24. I'm a different person, so maybe I'm 54. I'll have a different take on it. But, you know, I really, you know, extract a lot of my, you know, this is all I do. This and my family, that's it, right? So, you know, I'm interested to see how it plays out, what happens. And I don't give a fuck who you are, how deep you are in the industry. Like, it's really hard to predict, on any real timeline where this thing's going to kind of wind up before it hits kind of a stable point. It's probably 20 years away, but at least 5 or 10 years from like having clear people really emerge.
Absolutely. Yeah. We don't know what tomorrow holds in this market. Not at all, man. And I think on that note, I'm gonna start moving us up out of here, man. I really appreciate your time today, Elliot. And for people out there, you guys can check Elliot out on LinkedIn. Elliott Lewis, definitely search him, CEO of Catalyst. Look at his content on there. Catalyst-cannabis.com is the website. You can find the 9 locations. More locations coming online over the course of this year and next year. I really look forward to watching the growth, continuing watching the content. And man, we got to stay in touch, man. Let us know if there's anything we can highlight or elevate through the platform.
No, for sure. And I just want to say it's the most humbling thing in the world when, somebody reaches out to have you do their podcast or whatever. Like, honestly, just super humbled. It means the world to me. It really like touches my heart that somebody even wants to hear me talk. So I really appreciate it. And, all your sentiments on the show and everything. So, thanks so much for having me on from the bottom of my heart. We'll for sure be in touch. And again, thanks so much.
No doubt, Elliot. Appreciate you. This is North American Weed Tour Podcast, episode 62. We'll be at you guys